welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Join me in today's video where I'll be reviewing another watch from Forzo. Not too long ago I got to review the Forzo Enduro Timer, and I gotta say I absolutely fell in love with the whole aesthetic of the watch and as well as the brand. Forzo watches have got some incredible branding and they combine two of my most loved hobbies, which is watches and cars. Now, because Forzo was new to me prior to this watch, I did spend a bit more time on the packaging. This time, not so much. Nothing has changed. The box is the same. Pretty solid box with some texturing on the top. Forzo logo, Forzo watch manual. Once you open the inner box, you've got your cloth, again with the logo and that soft textured suede feeling on the inside and the cushion. It all feels premium, it all feels great, and it's a nice little box to open. Now, I don't want to talk any more about the packaging because I really want to talk about this watch. Now, one thing which I absolutely loved about Forzo, and I just touched upon it just briefly a second ago, was the fact that they have such a heavy race car or automotive influence on their designs and their products. This is in fact the newest collaboration. This is a limited edition timepiece. So this is Forzo's collaboration between Scuderia Cameron, Glickenhaus, who are the endurance racing pioneers. They actually race in the Nürburgring. They take part in the 24-hour Le Mans racing series. So this watch pays tribute to the best of the 1960s with regards to watches and car racing. And throughout the review I'll be pointing to how they've blended it and how some of the features that you see present really get their message translated across through this watch. And I particularly loved how they did that in the previous model, they've done it again. They've really got the message across. Their branding is on point, and I love that collaboration and the whole link to racing. And Forzo has been fully endorsed by the whole team, and the actual logo of Forzo watches has already appeared in 2020 in the Nürburgring 24 Hours Le Mans, which happened in September, and it actually appeared on the Glick 004, which is one of the hypercars, and that is something which makes it even more fantastic. They are not just involved in your normal run-of-the-mill cars or not even your normal race cars. These are hypercars, so we're talking high performance, high engineering, full of adrenaline, just that top level racing and going across for 24 hours. Absolutely incredible. I love that aspect of motor racing, and if you want to go on the website and look a lot more into it, this is quite a hands-on project that they did with the whole Glickenhaus team, and I find that just interesting, and I find that overly amazing, and that these guys are for real. They are on trackside talking to the team, and God knows all the things they must experience with that, just being involved with maybe drivers, maybe managing directors, seeing the cars, watching them race, and it's a great combination of the two for me. Now, due to that collaboration, they released a whole new range. It's called the Glickenhaus range, or the Glickenhaus Racing Collection, which is comprised of a few different chronograph setups and two different automatic setups. So the one I've got for the auto here is with that blue accents present on the dial. They've also got a red accented one. The chrono range is £450, and the automatic range, this comes in at £650, which I'd estimate roughly is around the $800 mark. So the specs for this, you've got a 316L stainless steel case construction. You've got a 100 meters water resistance, but the watch does have a screw down crown and a screw down case back, and you've got a very unique raised and chamfered sapphire crystal. Look how cool that looks. You don't normally see that on watches. Normally see a box style sapphire, but it's totally flat, but it has been raised quite a bit, and you've got a really nice wide chamfer, which, just have a look at that refraction that you can see the numerals coming out on the edges, which is quite a cool little look. Now, the movement powering this watch is a Miyota 9015. You've got the date complication at the 3 p.m. position with a color matched date wheel. It does have a beat rate of 28,800 vibrations per hour. It does hack and wind, and for the most part, I think a lot of people prefer this Miyota over the PT5000. It is a lot more reliable. I've got a few watches running this Miyota movement, and I've had no issues with it. They do run very consistent and very accurate. So in terms of dimensions, you've got a case diameter which is just a touch over 40 millimeters. You've got a thickness of 13.8 millimeters, a lug to lug of 47 millimeters, and a lug width of 20 mil, and an overall weight of just under 150 grams. Very decent specifications, and measurements are quite normal. So let's bring you over to the dial and let me explain to you the inspiration behind this dial. Now, you can see a few things here. The first thing, let's look at the texture. It is a matte black textured dial. You've got like asphalt texture, which again does relate to race cars. And the dial also has a slightly raised center where you'll find the printed logo of Forzo and Glickenhaus just above the 6. And I like they haven't gone with, you know, all that text which states the water resistance rating, whether it's automatic or not. It just simply states Glickenhaus and the Forzo logo. Now you've got a bunch of printing all around the dial. You've got this train track style minute track which goes around the center, and you've got 2 sets of markings. At the top you've got the 5, 10, 15, 20 numerals, and just underneath that track also got 24-hour markers in that nice racing blue. Now that is directly inspired by the rev counters of the olden race cars. Even the font is more or less exactly the same as the rev counters. So that's incredible how they've put that in. And the hands also tie in with that. You can see that second hand is a race counter style second hand. The whole thing does look like it's been taken straight out of a race car. Handset is a fully polished handset. You can see a slightly Dauphine style hands. You've got the chamfered edges on either side, and you've got that light blue strip that goes to the center of both, and that matches perfectly with the numbers in that light blue as well. And you can also see that color match date wheel, which is a nice touch. Now the watch does have some Loom. I'll show you that in a second. Let me just go over the bezel quickly. The bezel insert is aluminium. You've got 12-hour markers on there. The rotation is actually bi-directional, 60 click in total, so it goes either way. Very nice rotation. No movement in the bezel, no bounce in the bezel at all. Very smooth rotation. You know, even this thin aluminium bezel, of course, no doubt going slightly vintage, because you can always use ceramic, but they chose not to. Now the only thing I gotta say which kind of looks off and it feels off is this pip. The pip is slightly off center, only fractionally or marginally, but it does stick out quite a bit, and it kind of seems a bit pointless, like it just placed there. That's something that they really should not bothered with, or maybe had a lower pip, or maybe a pip that was integrated into the bezel. Of course it takes a bit more work, but you know, it is £650, so why not? You know, it's all about these smaller details that I find myself paying attention to. So yeah, it's quite high up. I don't really like how that sits on that bezel. Now let's go ahead and check out the Loom, because I want to see where it's applied and how it looks in the dark. So here's the Loom on the dial, and I gotta say, that's not a bad attempt. That looks quite cool. You can see the hour markers all around the dial are fully illuminated with BGW9, and also on the hands. It's been pretty evenly applied. Even though the numerals or the font is quite thin, there still is ample Loom. The only thing I would say that I wish they'd loomed the second hand. That would have looked fantastic, and I think you want to see a running second hand in the dark. Definitely the pip is also illuminated at 12. So yeah, decent amount of Loom. Not overly bright, but you know, that's limited due to the font used. But I think for what they have, it is more than adequate. Now let's turn our attention to the case, and the case is very similar, if not exactly the same as the one on the Enduro Timer, especially in terms of finishing and the features that you see. And the things that stick out is these polished chamfered highlights around the sides by the lugs. I really do like how that looks. And looking at the brushing, you've got circular brushing on the A-face, very fine indeed. And on the side of the case profile, again, linear brushing, extremely fine. And I like how they've done that. Satinized, I'd say. Drilled lugs and a lovely crown. And I really like the shape of that crown and the engraving present, sort of like a turbine or a gear, let's say. Very smooth and very refined. Of course, Forzo logo as well present. Nice function to the crown, nice feel, and it screws in wonderfully. You can notice also the end links do fit absolutely seamlessly into the case. Very nice end link fit. And turning the watch around, case back, exactly the same as the previous one, more or less in terms of design. Now, because this is a limited edition, this is numbered 49 out of 50. So in terms of bracelet that they've used, solid end link bracelet, solid links. It is a 5-link style bracelet. You guys know it better as the Jubilee style bracelet. It does have a nice taper from 20mm down to, I'd say, about 16mm. The clasp is the same as the previous one. Forzo logo on the flip, milled internals, and a press down clasp with 6 micro adjusts, 2 at the front. Only thing with these clasps, you know, they do look nice, they do look quite vintage as well, and this one is finished very nicely. Only thing is just, you know, that whole pulling apart, you got to put a bit of force in there. I don't like that. I prefer pushers, in all honesty. It just makes it a bit more convenient when it is on wrist. Bracelets okay, not a huge fan of these kind of bracelets in all honesty, and I really like the one that they used on the Enduro timer, and I wish they'd stuck with that kind of bracelet. I know they wanted to make it different and not look exactly the same, but that is a much nicer bracelet. Obviously it's a bit more vintage as well. It reminds me of those Omega style bracelets. Kind of flat, very vintage and very comfortable. This no doubt will be extremely comfortable as well because it is female end links, fully articulates around the case, and these small links will wrap around the wrist no problem. So let's get this on wrist. This is the Glickenhaus on wrist. I've got a 6.5-inch wrist and I had to remove about 6 links in total. In terms of how it sits, very comfortable, 47mm on the lug to lug, really good dimensions, that 40mm diameter and that thin bezel and this crystal, they give you a lot of space on the dial, so it's extremely legible as you can see, and the aesthetics really fit the watch. It looks good on the wrist, it does fit really well. I love how the bracelet articulates. There's no sharp edges to that bracelet, no sharp edges on the clasp or the case. Very comfortable. Slightly top heavy because these Jubilee style bracelets, they're quite jangly, and they haven't got much weight to them, so most of the weight is on the watch head, which you can definitely feel some top heaviness, but it's got a nice fit, I gotta say, and it does look good. Now let me change the strap out. I've got something which is, I'd say, perfectly made for this watch, so I'll be back in a second. I've got a leather strap on here with some really nice blue stitching on either end and a blue sort of keep, and one's black, so I think that does kind of match the colors, although it's a different shade of blue, granted, but yeah, it's a nice leather strap. It is of course available on my eBay store, and I'm not saying it's nice just because I'm selling it, but it is nice. You've got PVD hardware, and I think that looks quite good. But of course, this watch design will suit a whole host of different straps, and I'm thinking like a rally spec strap, with the whole holes and perforation. Maybe a dark brown will also look quite good. Let's get this on wrist, and that looks quite good on the watch. Just needs a slight bit of breaking in, as do most leather straps, but very comfortable on wrist, and I think the color does kind of suit the whole visual we got going on here. So now it's time to summarize. I'll just do negatives for now, and everything else just assume it's a positive. As they say, no news is good news. So the things which I don't like, or I think they could improve on, I think first one is a bit of a design one. I think they should have taken out the date window. It would have given the dial perfect symmetry and would have been more in tune with a rev counter. I really like that font how they've done it, so it would make sense just to continue that, but they've put that in there. Second thing is that second hand is not loomed. I would love to see that loomed. It's white anyway, so it's quite easy to apply some loom to that and just make it really stand out. Another thing which I don't really like is that pip. As I said, it's just slightly off center, ever so slightly, but the fact that it sticks out a bit, it kind of looks out of place. It is only small, so it would have been nice either to just take it out or put in something integrated into that bezel. And the last thing is, I would definitely swap out this Jubilee style bracelet. Comfort wise, it's okay, there's nothing wrong with it. This is purely subjective. I prefer the previous bracelet that was on there. It just looks more in tune with the watch, and everything else is absolutely fine. I like that crystal, I like the case finishing, of course, the movement's good, and I like the whole theme, as I've been ranting on about it. But yeah, so that's my full review for this Forzo Glickenhaus. It is a limited edition watch. If you choose to get it, please check out their website, which is linked within the description. Please check out the whole story behind this, the collaboration with Scuderia Glickenhaus. It's a fantastic piece of work, and I really like how far and what levels these guys go to. They're not just armchair enthusiasts. They're actually trackside working with the team, and they've managed to do such a fantastic collaboration and get the name on the side of a 24-hour Le Mans hypercar. So that in itself is a great achievement. So thank you to Forzo for sending this watching. Thank you to you guys for watching, and I'll definitely see you on the next video.